the Doechi hate is forced. Don't get me wrong, the Anxiety song is a nothing burger of a song. It's nothing remarkable about it. And I understand the straight men are
This is a huge red flag for me. All right. It's so crazy. I was gonna say men.
As well as her being rude to her assistant at the Met Gala.
No, stop. Give me another umbrella now. Another one right there. Get another one. I need four umbrellas. Hold the umbrellas there. And do not let that I will not. Move these umbrellas. I don't want these people seeing me. I got it. Move the umbrella.
I can definitely understand a bit of the derision, but to say that she's a straight up industry plant, I don't think people understand how truly disrespectful it is to call somebody an industry plant. Especially when you don't take into account that that person has been working for years to get to this point in time. That is so disrespectful. And here is exactly why that's disrespectful. An industry plant is someone who gets into the entertainment industry, whether that's acting or, making music, and they have no prior experience, and their growth feels extremely artificial. They've been heavily pushed despite having no prior discography or nothing else prior to them being able to sign that major deal. Like, let me give you guys an example. Four Bats last year had that song Act 2 Dated 8 that got super duper popular, and his overall discography is not that big. In fact, the fact that he has features from people like Lil Baby and then having a whole Drake remix shows you everything you need to know. This dude is an industry plant. He has no prior internet history of any kind, and I believe he has a family member that works for a major record label. So the fact that he literally popped up out of nowhere, had a 1-minute song, and then magically he's getting co-signed by Kanye West, that's an actual industry plant. Someone who has no prior history and blows up out of nowhere, and their music sounds overly polished and damn near perfect, something that could be put on the radio the next day and no one would bat an eye. And the thing about industry plants is that they naturally just do not have the talent. They don't have the ability to make the music on a personal level without high-level production staff and high-level engineers that would allow them to create this picture-perfect, very polished music. And most of them rely on some sort of gimmick that will allow them to have a broader outreach. What is Four Bats' whole thing? He's from the streets, and he sounds like an R&B singer. Well, what else? That's pretty much it. That's literally it. That's the thing about industry plants. Industry plants do not usually last long in hip-hop specifically because hip-hop is a fast-moving genre. And despite the fact that hip-hop can be fickle, it can question the authenticity of its artists, specifically certain people, about how street they are and how their come up wasn't necessarily the most natural. And when those questions start getting asked and their answers are followed with, oh, this person has an uncle or an auntie or a sister or a cousin in a very high place, it makes sense why their very first song blew up the way it did, and then their second song gets a feature from like Drake or Lil Baby or NBA Youngboy. It makes sense. They were paid behind closed doors to get a feature from them. And because that family member was able to get that specific feature necessary for the song, the label is going to do what they do, and they're going to promote it and push it through algorithm after algorithm until it becomes the biggest song of, well, the year or the summer or the fall or whatever time period of the year it usually is. Simply put, an industry plant is extremely artificial. Doechi's growth is not artificial. That is something that has been ongoing since she was in high school. So while I do understand people not liking her or not necessarily being the biggest fan of the song Anxiety, calling her an industry plant is disrespectful as hell because she actually put a lot of time and effort into making music. She did that. That's not her being backed by a massive label and basically did nothing because she has a sister or a cousin or somebody in the industry that can give her the proper ties. It's because she was genuinely talented and was able to win the public over. And of course Doechi's gonna be everywhere. She won a fucking Grammy. Of course she is. TDE are not gonna just sit on the fact that she just dropped an album and not promote any of the singles, the music videos, or anything. They're not gonna not do that. And I don't necessarily understand why people are so like, oh, she's being shoved in our faces. Dog. A label who believes in an artist is going to naturally push for the artist to do more stuff. They're going to do more tiny desk stuff or live performance stuff on talk shows. They're going to be everywhere. If a label is truly behind an artist, they're going to do everything they can to ensure that that artist is successful. I'm going to use GNX as another example. Despite the fact that it was a surprise release, songs like Squabble Up, Luther, and most importantly, TV Off got tons of promo. There were so many different commercials. That's natural. So many people are used to that approach of doing so little for album promotion that when an album does drop and it isn't played everywhere, there are people that will think that that album flopped even if it did sell well and it's doing pretty well in terms of the metrics. People will think, oh, this album flopped. It's not being played at clubs, it's not being played at parties, it's not in commercials, it's not in this, it's not in that. They'll think that the album flopped when in reality it did not flop. But calling somebody an industry plant who's worked hard to actually get to that point in time is very disrespectful. And it's disrespectful to anyone who's worked their butts off to get into position to actually achieve that level of success.